Hello and welcome to Everyday Oral Surgery. This is your host, Dr. Grant Stucki. I am an oral and maxillofacial surgeon practicing in Denver, Colorado. The goal of this podcast is to connect, learn, and inspire. In this podcast, you'll be hearing from OMS surgeons all over the globe discussing ways to improve the practice of oral and maxillofacial surgery. Most information shared in this podcast will be based on personal experience and opinions, so please supplement what you learn here with approved research studies. Without further ado, please enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome everyone back to another episode. Today I'm with Dr. Roger Levin. He is the CEO of Levin Group. We've done a series here, kind of helping our managers / CFOs of the company here to try to really develop and refine their roles. So what do you got for us today, Roger?
Well, first of all, Grant, it's great to be back with you. I love it. And I have to tell you, as I'm traveling, young surgeons especially, I know you have older surgeons listening also, but they're coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I heard you on Grant Stucki, I guess it is." Well, Grant, first of all, it is wonderful to be with you. As I was telling you, as I travel the country now, young surgeons, and I know we have all age groups for these podcasts, but the young surgeons seem to be the ones that come up to me and tell me, "Oh, I heard you on Grant Stucki's podcast." Because they don't know the name of the podcast, they know you, and
Right.
how much they enjoy the work you're doing and the difference you're making. So it's a pleasure to be part of this. Today we're going to talk about a summarization of the job of the office manager. And let me remind everybody the background of how this came about. A few years back, I realized and did some survey work that 96% of office managers in all of dentistry, including oral surgery, had no management background or education. And we've also learned that there are a lot of committed, dedicated office managers out there who don't really know how to do the job, but they're perfectly capable of learning it. So what is the job? The job is for the office manager to become the chief operating officer of the practice, the COO, which means these office managers run everything in the practice except for the clinical. And I literally mean everything. So in the first episode, and I encourage everyone to go back and listen to these if you haven't heard them, we talked about what an office manager is, what a COO does, how you evolve the job and train these individuals. Then we went on to talk about management of the team. Surgeons don't have time to manage the team. Plus, they don't really like it. Nobody likes it. They want to be surgeons. And surgeons, you can get the freedom back of doing surgery and having fun and increasing your practice income if you follow this formula and put in place office managers who are real COOs, chief operating officers. And then in our third session, we talked about meetings and the importance of meetings, how to run them, why meetings create culture, how they communicate, how people feel included. And today, we're going to sum up together and go forward in the real job of the office manager. So here we go. Bullet point 1, the office manager is responsible for all operations and workflow. And my attitude and what we're teaching, in addition to putting the systems in place, get the office running properly, have checklists step by step, get everyone together. If you have more than one office, they need to run they may be a little bit different based on location or demographics, but you want a similar model that you're comfortable with running your practices, even if the team are moving back and forth, even if they're not. So the first point is get your operations in place. And then ask the question, the office manager asks the question, how do we improve? What can you do to continually improve your operations? Is there a new technology? Is there something you need to teach a staff member? We see so many staff members that don't really know what their job is. And by the way, that's common in many industries. I remember a professor at Harvard Business School saying, most people don't know what their job is. And he didn't mean they have no idea, but he meant that they're examples of parts of jobs. People either they don't know they're supposed to do it, or they don't know when they're supposed to do it. What we teach the office manager is every team member needs to know 4 things. What is the job? When do I do it? How do I do it? and what's the result I'm looking for. And it's even better when you can put a number on it, 98% of this or 94% of that. So the office manager, to be clear, oversees all front desk operations. They build the schedules. Schedules are dynamic. They need to change regularly, but there should be a series of scheduling principles. We have a client who lost one of his top referring doctors because when the front desk person called to get a patient in, she was told they could get the patient in 3 days. Just like matter of fact, didn't acknowledge who she was, didn't realize they're talking to an A referral source practice, and managed it by saying, we can't see your patient for 3 days. That was the quote. Well, that would annoy me too. If I'm really loyal to you and I'm helping you and I'm building you and I'm working with you and I think I'm important to you, and then you brusquely tell me you got a problem, can't see you for 3 days, that's not going to go well. So the office manager is the person who's creating scheduling principles for the team to follow. Yes, the person who said they could not see the patient for 3 days was right, except they were wrong because the schedule said they couldn't see him for 3 days, but the principal would have said, when you've got a high level referring office, you do what you need to do to accommodate them and work it out. Billing, insurance, patient flow all come under the office manager who needs to train the team.
Nice. Okay. So that's kind of primary responsibility is operations and workflow and just kind of all these areas of that you just talked about.
Right, but I've got a lot more.
Nice.
Because this is the office, this is the chief operating officer. They have to run it all. When I say run it all, they've got a whole team under them to do it, but they've got to make sure it happens. So the second thing is treatment acceptance and follow-up. Okay, oral surgeons have at least 20% higher production if they could follow up with patients who don't accept treatment right away or aren't sure. You've got everything from patient financing. We're training office managers how to use patient financing properly. And even though, yes, you've got to pay a small portion of your fee to the patient financing company, we're growing profit. So instead of a 40 or 45% profit, you get a 35% profit. Not so bad. It's really good, actually. But what happens in most offices? Well, there's a sign. It might say, the name of one of the patient financing companies. Nobody ever sees the sign. Front desk people forget to mention it. The patient says, well, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Rather than, by the way, Mrs. Smith, and this should be handled in the consult as well. We have an opportunity for you to get interest-free financing. Those words, interest-free, are beautiful. We are growing practices with interest-free financing every single day. And as the economy gets tougher, inflation goes up. Should that happen, it's happening a little bit now at the time we're recording this. People need that extra line of credit or access to debt in order to accept treatment, or implants will be more affected than any other part of the surgical practice when it comes to economic downturns, because implants can be put off and then many patients never get back to them, or to get you more competitive, they might end up somewhere else down the road. So office managers are the ones that make sure all of this happens, and then follow up with patients, not just, it was nice to meet you, goodbye, but we have a 1-week follow-up process, and it's amazing how many people on that contact say, yes, I'm going to do it, schedule me. But if you never call them, they just don't get around to it.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's helpful to hear. So number 2 is the treatment acceptance and follow-up. Are you talking about like patients who like immediately don't accept a treatment plan? Let's say they're not sure, it's too expensive. They want to go home, think about it, talk to their loved one. The ability to kind of reconnect with them and get them to accept. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, and answer any questions. And somebody once said to me many years ago, well, I don't want to harass patients. And I thought about that. And, we're dentists. We're not really trained salespeople. They don't teach you sales techniques in dental school, and we don't really need them per se. But what we do need is a customer service perception. And here's my view, and I'm proud of it, and I stand by it. I've thought about this for many, many years. Following up with patients is a customer service, not harassment. I'm not saying call them 10 times. I'm not saying tell them, oh, by the way, you'll lose all your teeth if you don't do this. Your life will be worse. You'll have infection all the time. Just calling them and politely checking in with them. And I have not heard one story from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of oral surgery practice clients where a patient got angry because somebody followed up with them. It's just they're more pleased that you took the time to care. That expression, people want to know how much you care. That's the important aspect of it. So I think it's a great idea, but it's also a system. You follow up 1 week later. Here is your scripting. And the office manager is also in charge of scripting, because so many offices, Grant, they try to put in scripting. Our scripting, I'm sorry, it's fantastic. I hate to say that, but it's really good. I mean, we work really hard on it. And if you put it in place, the team will use it for a little while and then stop, because we all revert back to the easier, more natural thing. So the office manager is the one that works on the scripting, keeps it going, makes sure people are using it. Every one of these things I'm mentioning today will add 3, 5, 7% each to your practice success.
Yeah, and I'm surprised how many patients, when when we present a treatment plan, they're unsure, and we'll see them maybe a couple weeks later. How many of them are kind of still confused and don't even remember now, what was that again? What were we doing? Yeah. Maybe it's just too much information at one time, but it seems like sometimes a second or third time they're kind of catching it. Oh, okay, that's what we're doing, and maybe it just takes an extra touch point of explaining again what the plan is and why we're doing it and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've said to our consultants, I wish there was a meter where I could measure at what point in the consult the patient just tunes out.
Exactly.
I don't know I'm sure you've seen this, Grant, because I saw it in practice. You're talking to a patient, it's a big complex case, it's good for them, and you are just looking at them saying to yourself, they could not be less interested. They are not doing this. The bigger it just happens. And we keep talking instead of pivoting to ask some questions. But the other thing, here's data. 4 out of 5 patients ask a clinical question after a consult when they get to the front desk. And our front desk people are not trained to answer those questions and act as what we call the second opinion in the, they heard from the surgeon, now they're hearing from the front desk. And they want to hear, they're often willing to ask the front desk person questions that they don't ask the surgeon. And some of the questions are really kind of silly, but not to the patient. They will walk up front and say, would you do this? They'll ask the front desk person, would you do this? And of course they're going to say yes, but how enthusiastic are they? Do they have a proof point? This is the office manager's job to train them in the scripting, critically important. Yeah. So the next piece is knowing the numbers. Office managers need to be finance people as well. They don't have to start that way. It's not that hard, but they've got to know the numbers. When they meet with the doctors, there should be one more meeting I didn't mention is the monthly doctors meeting. And they should sit down and say, out of our 20 key performance indicators, these are the ones where we're off. I call that the exception report. After a while, you don't need to hear all the numbers where you're on track. You need to hear the numbers, Grant, where you're not on track, because the ones on track make you feel good, and that's wonderful. And if you're growing, you do want to know why, but it's the ones where you're below goal that the office manager should be highlighting and making recommendations. Instead of simply saying, okay, I'm here, we're down 10% in production, and being quiet, the office manager should also be making recommendations, because as the longer they're there, the more tenured they are, the more experience they get, they're part of the doctor team at that point. If I were in practice today and I had an office manager, I would treat that manager as a colleague, not a subordinate. Same way I am at Levin Group. My executives are my colleagues, not my subordinates, even though I'm the CEO. And rarely do they bring an issue without an idea of how we solve it. And then it's easier on me, because if you say, well, here's how we can solve it, I can think much faster. Do I like that or not? than if I have to come up with the answer for you every single time. Now, early on for an office manager, you got to coach them and give them the answers. But the other piece is the team members should have some numbers. Every team member should have 1 to 3 numbers they're responsible for. If you're scheduling, well, we want the schedule filled 95% of the time. We want to hit our daily goal, etc. If you're collections, we want to collect 96% of what's owed to us, not including trauma. I can hear surgeons out there going, he doesn't understand trauma. We want to collect 2% of our trauma, but yeah. So I always say we want to collect 96% of what we're owed, not including trauma. But nonetheless, every team member should have numbers that they're responsible for and report on as an agenda item at the monthly staff meeting. That engages people in a fantastic way. And if somebody's not hitting their goal, that's okay. You're not going to be in trouble. You're not embarrassed. We all work on how to make it happen.
So they got to know their numbers. They got to know how to get the team members knowing their specific numbers and their individual realms of work. Basically, they have to have that financial component to their job, is what you're saying.
They do. And then the next big one, and these are not in priority order today, is if something's not working in the office, it's a systems problem. And here's an example. Unfortunately, today I found out that an SUV I own is going to have to be sold, and I'm going to have to go get a new SUV because it's 10 years old, and you're playing that game of put in another 5,000 and then see if it holds up. But when the SUV went in, the mechanics looked at it and said, this is your problem. Well, if it wasn't the braking system, it might have been another system in the car. Makes perfect sense to all of us to understand that. The practice is the same. And office managers need to look for what we call at Levin Group system solutions. Because even for our clients, they're not going to keep us forever. So once the office manager's trained, and if they say, Levin Group, we love you, great job, we grew, office manager's trained, thank you, she still has to carry on. She won't have a consultant to say, where should I look? So you look at the systems. What's not working well? And sometimes it could be parts of 2 or 3 systems, but it's not the surgeon's job to figure this out. And if the surgeon's doing it, it's going to take a whole lot longer because they're not focused on it that way. Office managers need to fix problems. Just like the SUV, the mechanic could fix it, I'm going to sell it, but in this case, but the office manager's the one that fixes it. And then the doctors should say, okay, you have spending authority up to X, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. You don't have to ask us. Over that, you got to ask us. And you may make changes in the systems as long as none of the doctors are upset about the changes taking place. Sometimes if you have partners, Grant, you might say, well, I want it this way. And the partner is saying, no, I'm not going to do it that way. By the way, that's a headache for Levin Group with our clients because then we got to then go negotiate, okay, which way are we going to go here? And by the way, when we're not there, the office manager has to negotiate that at that point. So, and she's got to learn how to bring 2 partners together in a partners meeting, the monthly meeting, and say, well, here are the pros of this way, here are the pros of that way. What do you guys or gals want to do?
Got it. Yeah. So critical to know systems, how to spot errors, fix them, and just help the whole team be on the same page with the right systems.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we have a new one in the modern era, which is the patient experience. So everybody would say they want their patients to have a good experience. We have a new client who is heavily a state-funded revenue. They want their patients to have a great experience. They don't say we don't care. They care. So the office manager now, here we go, has to monitor patient satisfaction, has to review online reviews and respond to complaints, and drive changes to improve patient outcomes. And that's a whole new category that we didn't have even, not really that much 10 years ago, certainly not 20, but it's here now. And if we don't manage it and manage our online reputation, it will manage us. And you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure part of that is making sure patients follow through with good reviews. Seems like the main people who actually put reviews are motivated to let the world know how horrible the experience was, and 95% of the people with a good experience don't actually review or put that down.
Right. Well, they will review if we start asking them. We have a number of cases now where we've gone from very few reviews to 2, 3, 400 in 12 to 24 months. And the key is every time a patient comes up front, they should be not right after surgery, but post-op certainly. How was your visit today? And they're going to say great most of the time. And then you literally say to them, can I ask you for a favor? Would you be nice enough to write a review about our practice so others can hear about your experience? That's all. And it's amazing how many people go and do it for you. I get surveys like you do if I take a flight, I get a survey. If I'm in a hotel, I get a survey. If I go to a restaurant, I get a survey. Everybody's sending out these surveys because they're automated and then they're AI compiled. And I don't fill them out because they're just it's just a time management thing. It makes no sense to waste my time doing that unless I have a really bad experience or I have a really good experience. So when you ask most of your patients who had a good experience, which is the job of the office manager to ensure that, they will be happy to write reviews for you. We have about a $3 million solo OMS practice in the Southeast, and they're at 850 reviews following this process. It's been a few years. They've been doing it for a while. And by the way, when you get a bad review, the office manager needs to deal with that immediately. Surgeons don't like to hear it. They get mad, they get defensive, they'll wait 2 weeks. You need to respond to a bad review immediately, and the office manager needs to be trained to do that. You don't go on there and argue, you don't go on there and fight, you don't act defensive. You simply put in the quote that we teach. We're sorry that you did not have the experience that you would like in our practice. We are dedicated to the comfort of every one of our patients. Please reach out to us directly so we can try to resolve your issue. That's it. But you do it instantly, where the surgeons might. It stings when you get a bad review. So you really don't. You like to put it off because you don't want to even think about it.
Yeah. Have you found? What the best thing to do is to get patients to really follow up with that? Do you hand them a QR code? Do you give them a sheet of paper? Do you email them something? Like, what yields the best results of people actually filling out a good review?
For a good review, you hand them a card. We have a card called the thank you card. And at the top of the card, this is after you ask them for the review and they say yes. The top of the card reads, I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it's something like, thank you for coming in today. We are very appreciative of having you for a patient. And if we can ever do anything else for you, please let us know. And then at the bottom, it's the 4 steps of leaving a Google review that people understand. Like, for example, I wear a Fitbit. And this morning, it decided not to sync. It just makes up its own mind sometimes. Yeah. So I had to do what's called a reset. I can never remember how to do the reset. I have the charge 6, there's a charge 5, there's a this, there's a that. So I went right onto Gemini and I said, how do you reset the charge 6? And it literally listed 3 steps that reminded me how to do it because it's been a long time. And it was fixed instantly. Same thing with this thank you card. It's really a thank you for coming in, but it's also how to leave a review. And then you say thank you again at the bottom. You can't overthank people.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So the last area is compliance. We're in a world today where if you don't have the right licenses, you don't have the right certificates, if you forget to do things, you're in trouble. You're probably not going to forget to pay your malpractice insurance, but the office manager should have checklists and timelines for the practice because she may leave or he may leave. And if they do, you don't want to be starting over. So what are the annual maintenance fees? What are the annual service times and equipment? What are the insurance protocols? When do taxes get paid? We have a client that didn't pay their taxes for 5 years and didn't know it. They claim they didn't know it. And he said, well, it was my office manager's job to take care of the taxes, and I never thought to ask about it. You know, it sounds crazy, but it's also real. But they learned about it when the IRS decided to audit them, and now they've been audited 4 years in a row. You know, the IRS can be very focused when it chooses to be.
Yeah.
So the point, I mean, that's an extreme example, but you want everything checklisted. What are the monthlies, the weeklies, the annuals? Because that's the easiest way to keep up. If you want to do it in a simple way, you can use Excel, you can use project management software, but your office manager must have software guidelines, lists, checklists, and you must have, and make sure you know the codes and have access to them just in case. And people will leave, they'll retire, they'll get sick, they'll move. Things happen that aren't even for bad reasons.
Got it. Okay. So just keeping it on top of all the compliance things, making sure nothing slips through the cracks, and you end up with a bunch of IRS audits. That would be bad.
Yeah. Right. So the last one is really fun, and we could spend hours on it. It's leadership of the team. And I want to start with a question that I received about a month ago. Can an office manager be friends with the team? Now, as soon as I heard the question, I understood the etiology, the source of the question. And I would have bet money at that moment that this office manager had been on the team and then promoted to office manager, which is quite common. And now she's gone from being sitting in the staff room, one of the girls, one of the boys, whatever, to being in charge. And I personally have an opinion, but I think the answer is it could go either way. My opinion is you can be friends with the team. You don't have to suddenly become or put a wall up between you and the team because you're now the manager. And there are team members who will try to play you, and you have to learn to be polite but straightforward and let them know we can do that, we can't do that. I can approve that, I can't approve this. You can have that time off, you can't have that time off. And people might get mad at you, but that's okay. Nobody likes to hear no. But the job of the manager is to be a manager. And that means that you have to be on top of things. You've got to be fair with people. You've got to be open and transparent with people. And you've got to build a culture. And gradually, people will get to know the boundaries. Here's what you can do. Here's what I'll let you do with me. And here's what I won't. Because one thing I've learned about management, you will get what you tolerate. We have a client where everything he wants from us is not really our program. Now, we can do this work. And we decided 3 years ago we would do it his way because we can do it, but it's not really our program. And that's when you get in trouble. The difference is this time it's worked well. He's done extremely well. But the consultant that he was working with retired. I've lost one consultant since 2015, and that's due to retirement. We had to change consultants. And I picked the next consultant with our team. And the consultant said, well, can't we just convert him into our program? And my answer was no. We have allowed him to be in his type of program, doing things differently than we do them. We have the knowledge and experience to do it. And after 3 years, he is not going to convert suddenly into our program. He's just going to leave. So we're still working with him in his way of doing things. The example is we tolerated it for 3 years. At that point, if we go back and say, no, you got to do it the way we normally do it, he's going to say, but I haven't been doing it that way. I'm leaving. I wouldn't blame him. So same thing with an office manager. You can be friends with the team, but let them gradually get to know the boundaries, what's acceptable, what's not, but do not tolerate bad behavior for your friends because that will come back to hurt you, because once you tolerate it, you've made it policy. And that's one of my statements. Tolerating things make it a new policy. Don't be afraid to say yes or no. And understand one more thing. I'll end with this, Grant. You can ask me anything you like. But understand one more thing. The job of the office manager is not to be liked. It's to be respected. If you have to choose between respect and like, you go with respect. And the last point, here it is, everyone's not going to like you. But they might work for you. They don't have to like you. I have learned great things from people in life that I didn't care for them. I might not have cared for the way they did things, the way they acted, but they still had things I could learn. And a great quality is to be able to learn from anyone, whether you like them or not. And a great quality is being willing to manage people fairly, whether they like you or not. Don't get upset if people don't like you, just manage them. Fortunately, in most cases, it can be very positive relationships going forward.
Oh, this reminds me when I was, before I was married many, many years ago, I was dating some girl, and I remember saying, someday when I have kids, I just hope I'm the best friends with my kids. That's what I want. And then I actually had kids years later with my wife, and I realized what these kids don't need is a best friend as a dad. They need a leader who's actually going to help them accomplish things and like make something of themselves, which means I have to be the bad guy a lot of times, and it really is. You have to ask yourself, what is it they need, not what makes me feel good. It's anyways. It all goes back to parenting.
I think that's brilliant. But I'll give you another insight since I'm farther ahead. My son and daughter-in-law are in their mid-30s. Once they hit their 30s, you can start to just be friends, and it's really great. Mine live 5 minutes away. I see them all the time. I only have one child, but if I had six, I wouldn't get more attention. And it's great. But you know what you just said? You can become their friends when they're adults because you were a good dad when they were younger. If you had been their friend when they were younger and then you didn't give them everything they wanted, you might not be their friend when they're older. Now that has nothing to do with our podcast, but it's a fun conversation. But office managers, be honest, be straightforward, be transparent, set the boundaries, but you can be friends with people. And just don't get into gossip though. An office manager that gossips is dead in the water right there. Just give it up. It's over. So, and when you hear gossip, you shut it down. Don't let anybody gossip to you because they're playing you about another team member.
Yeah, well, this has been awesome. I just love how you've outlined the role of the office manager, kind of given the main bullet points of what areas they should be focusing on and refining, the systems they should be setting up, the patient compliance, patient experience, the way they lead the office and create leaders. I think all this is just awesome stuff that's very helpful for a manager to think about. Any other comments you had?
Only that the reality is that some of our office managers have the chance to be exceptional. And again, I take the work we do together, Grant, very seriously. So I also am honest and transparent. Not all office managers can make the jump. And we've had a few circumstances where people have called us all excited about our new program. And we told them all about it. And they said, "Oh, I'm definitely doing it. Give me 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to fire my office manager and go get someone who can do this program." If you're going to take your office manager to chief operating officer level, just make sure they can go there and that they want to go there. I think the biggest factor for us right now, and we're early in this, so I'll give you feedback in a year. I think the biggest factor is openness versus resistance. The open office managers are growing by leaps and bounds. They're improving the practice. They're increasing income for the practice. A resistant office manager is going to fail at this, but that kind of resistance is the key red flag that this is not a person that should be managing your office anyway. They're managing you to stay where you are, and you can't stay where you are, which means you'll decline, rather than managing you to go where you can go. But when you've got a great office manager, you got a colleague, you got a person to listen to, you got someone who's seeing it on the ground every single day while surgeons get to do surgery and bringing you up to date in those doctor meetings that you need to have with the office manager included. You can always ask the office manager to leave if you have a sensitive topic like their compensation for next year. And managers know that. They know there's certain things they're not going to be part of, and they accept that as well.
Yeah, so I like that because this is all these roles we've discussed. A surgeon or owner of a practice could kind of use these to help a potential office manager say, "Hey, here's what I envision. Here's where we want to go with this. Is this something you can do?" I mean, of course, the doctor would have to assess that as well, himself or herself. Yeah. But you want to make sure, like you're saying, they also know the goals and the vision, and they're on board for all that.
And the office manager has to be comfortable saying to the doctors, we talk about this culture of positivity, but not everybody's sending that message. Now, again, you have to be careful. You're managing up and you're managing down, but you have to. But that's really the surgeon's job. to make the manager feel comfortable saying anything good, bad, or indifferent. If I'm a surgeon and I have 3 partners and 4 associates and 5 offices, or I'm solo, I want to make sure of one thing. I want the office manager to tell me, what can I do better? That's really important. Otherwise, the worst ego for a surgeon is to think you can't improve. We all can improve. So we have good days, we have bad days. I want everybody to have mostly good days.
Well, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you running through this. And I just love this manager series. And I mean, it just would help so much to have an incredible COO of the practice who knew all this stuff and was trained well and could do this. Would be so great for a surgeon.
And it's going to save the surgeons so much time, just wasted time that they should not be doing.
Yep, 100%.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Roger. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I love doing this, and I'll look forward to whatever we do next time.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Everyday Oral Surgery. For more information on these podcasts, please visit everydayOralSurgery.com. I love feedback and would be very grateful if you would reach out to me via my email, grantstucki@gmail.com, and let me know what you thought of this episode. Or you can text me at 720-441-6059. Additionally, if you have any topics you'd like to hear about, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email or text me. I found many of my interviewees through people who have been contacting me and have been listening, and I've gotten so many great ideas for more podcasts, and that's what helps keep the podcast rolling. So I really appreciate you making that extra effort and helping me out with feedback and knowing what to do next on the podcast. Thank you so much.